Oh shit. Oh shit. What's going on, chat? Hello blurry me. Hello camera that can't focus on itself. I don't know why. Turn the music down. Let me give it the old notepad test. I don't know why this thing always wants to go out of focus. Anyway, welcome everybody. Welcome back to Therapy Thursday. This will be the pre-Christmas one, I guess. So, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever the satanic church does. I'm not really sure. Any of the other weird things out there that just might be, I don't know, crap I've never heard of. Just happy holidays. There it is, the easy one. So for those of you who are unaware of what Therapy Thursday is, every Thursday, well, typically every Thursday, we try to do this where I come on here and I'm joined by my sister Asteria, who's a licensed professional therapist, and we basically encourage people to come into chat with any questions that they have about mental health, or maybe you just want to discuss something that's going on in your life and you're like, I don't know how to deal with this. And it's essentially there to help reach out to those that don't really know where else to go or can't really afford like therapy on their own because it's expensive and resources suck and there's not enough therapists. So it's essentially that. And also, you know, while we're in here, Asteria and I, if nobody comes into chat, we'll just talk about a specific topic or whatever's going on in our own lives. Like personally, the last couple weeks, not good. So we might be getting into that. I am in a mental fucking spiral right now. So, yeah, so maybe you'll hear something that I'm going through and relate to it, and maybe it'll give you some insight on what's going on with you. Who knows? So that being said, let's get it. Actually, before I bring in here, I just want to give an update on what is going on stream wise. I haven't been streaming for a couple of reasons. One, I've been, like I said, mentally in a horseshit spot. Last week we did not stream this as a result of one, me not feeling good. I was post finals, so like just mentally not feeling good, and I was stuck at work until like 8:30 p.m. So like right when the stream ends is when I left work. So I just wasn't able to get home. So sorry about that for those who are looking for me to be here. And as far as other streaming, yeah, same, like Two Wheel Tuesday, all that, like it's probably not going to happen for the rest of this year. I'm out of it right now. So let's bring in the pro. I don't think she heard that.
Oh, I fucking heard you.
Oh, okay. Because Discord didn't register it, so.
It fucking made me jump like when I'm waiting for fucking the waffles in the toaster. Like,
There they are. I knew it was coming.
I'm scared.
Oh no.
I'm scared and disoriented.
Processed carbs. Boxed food.
Bog's food. Brett Favre. Hey everybody, it's us.
Yay.
We're here. I'm sleepy.
Me too. And we can get into that in a little bit.
But first, let me tell you who I am, what's going on here, and from there, we will rightly and fastly unhinge.
Really quick,
No.
Nobody's joining.
No.
Okie dokie. Continue on.
Hi, everybody. I'm Asteria. Welcome to Therapy Thursday.
Were you about to say Mental Monday?
I was gonna say Mental Monday, but that's probably just for me. So some background about me and as to kind of the credentials as to why I'm here. I am an associate marriage and family therapist, and I work in the state of California. That's important because I have legalities and ethical boundaries I have to work. I have to work under, and at least in the United States, each state looks differently, or could look differently. I don't know all the states, and
I don't know all the
honestly,
states. Is that what you just said?
yeah, like their laws and ethics.
Oh, okay.
I don't know all their laws and ethics. And I honestly don't want to because I already took my legal and ethical exam once, and I don't intend to do that again. But who knows, right? My background is in trauma, dissociative disorders, substance use, depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, in addition to personality disorders, and there's various other ones that I also work with, but mainly my main factors are going to be kind of come back into trauma and substance. As a associate marriage and family therapist, I have the abilities to provide care to individuals, to couples, to folks in different various relationship settings, and the families. What I like to do is I like to use this space with Kilted to talk about various topics related to mental health, where we kind of even just kind of allow y'all to kind of come into our own little world. So I do not use this place to sound the most professional because I use that for the people who pay me. Otherwise, I sound like this.
So subscribe. No, I'm just kidding.
So subscribe. Yeah. So subscribe.
I can't take subscribers yet.
Oh. So if you could just like follow and stuff so we can get to that point, this will be a whole different story. Until then, some things that are very crucial about this particular stream is that we do talk about various topics related to mental health, and I could ask questions again. Just because I have an approach to mental health doesn't mean it's the definitive one of all approaches. So if you're here to kind of debate about going and finding your own individualized support, I encourage kind of exploring that best avenue for yourself. Other than that, again, this place is for general questions about diagnoses. However, I do not do diagnosing. So if you think your mom's narcissistic,
she probably is. Yay!
Yay!
I wish I had like a little clacker thing or something. Yeah.
The worst. So in addition to that, because I do work under legal and ethical bounds when it comes to confidentiality and being a mandated reporter, although that is only for my clients and those kind of involved with my clients, so that's none of you. However, I do have just kind of a ethical boundary that I hold here where I do not discuss topics of suicide with anyone that is 18 years and younger. So I will just make it very clear. I will not discuss that with you if you're a minor. Outside of that, feel free to put your questions, comments, concerns into the chat. We're gonna just keep on just rolling with things, and if we see your questions and so forth, or your comments and so forth, we will jump in, or we'll jump into it. We'll put a pause on our conversation, give your comments and questions, concerns the space that we can provide, and other than that, let's jump into it.
How are you?
Sleepy. I am very much excited for this holiday weekend. I am feeling burnt from the holidays, and I want to make this very clear. I have been using an abundance of like boundaries and self-care in my own personal life to kind of get through this. It is just like immensely difficult to get through the holidays working in mental health. Um, and if anyone wants to get an idea of what that looks like, if you could imagine the worst thing that you have to carry around all day, now imagine hearing that all day long and then trying to also provide skills, support, and empathy. I'm sleepy.
Yeah, sounds exhausting. Glad I'm not in your career field.
Yeah, I also have my beef with anyone that's like, well, I could just talk to people all day. I'm looking at you. You can't do this. Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway. But outside of that, in my own mental health, it's a great question. I am doing well. I actually want to share a bit and kind of, like I said, a little bit of vulnerability with myself, because one of the benefits of this stream is also getting some insight of in the mind of a therapist, because I feel like as a client you don't really get to you shouldn't be knowing what's going on with your therapist. So FYI, if you know too much about your therapist, they are not respecting their ethical bounds, so be mindful of that.
Really?
Yeah, you like that room is not for the therapist, and at least that's something I very like. It was so ingrained in me in grad school. It's like if you have too much of yourself showing up in the room, you have to ask yourself, is that because it's benefiting the client or is it benefiting you? And that is not what we're supposed to do. It is not for us. However, we can sometimes disclose information if we find it to be helpful for the client. That could be a very tricky place. So could be a very like fine line. So I encourage you to be very mindful of how you bring yourself into a room if you're a clinician. So one of the things that I'm working on personally with like even my therapist is learning how to be my age, because I know, spoiler alert,
It's not 83,
I am not 85 years old.
85, which we figured out if you take the square root of that and then
Oh my god!
take the square root times it by pi. Close enough.
Oh my god, that was just ridiculous.
I said that when I was drunk. I was like, take that, get the square root, times it by pi, but we're pretty close.
I was fucking
like,
dying.
boom,
I was
nailed
like,
it.
are we actually in a bar and you're fucking using this to get close to my age?
Yeah, it worked, right?
I mean, yes. So I am 28 years old. But I just don't know what that actually means, because I have been doing fucking ridiculous hard shit practically my whole life.
Here.
Here's another thing for anyone that wants a little tidbit, and I'm gonna probably ruffle some feathers for anyone that's listening. But that never stops me. Being called older than your age or an old soul when you're young is not a compliment. It is a reflection of trauma. Sit with that one. Anyway.
Why is that?
Well, because a lot of times when the message of like, oh wow, you're so mature for your age, is projecting the belief that you are thinking beyond your years.
Oh, because you're forced to?
Because commonly you're in environments where either you're forced to, or you've been promoted or provided the message to enable and enforce like that's a good thing. And you should do your best to stick to your age, in my opinion, because sometimes if you are, quote, beyond your age, potentially, you are also in the same sentence or in the same tone risking mental and emotional burnout. Because you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and by the time you get to your mid-20s, your early 30s, wherever, you're burnt out because you're just trying to be older and older and older. And then all of a sudden, you're 25 years old, feeling 60, and you're having a mental equivalence of a midlife crisis. So, not a compliment. Anyway, so in that, I am learning how to be my age, and I'm learning how to the distinct lines between being a mental health professional and having a life outside of that. And I want to say it was a lot trickier than I was expecting. However, it has been really nice. I've been really trying to enforce talking like a friend rather than a mental health professional, or talking like just a 28-year-old rather than a mental health professional. And that one has been quite interesting, which I can imagine some folks can do very naturally. I'm not saying all folks, because I know I'm not the only one that's probably gone through this, but I had to sit there and coach myself to not give mental health support or use mental health jargon. And it is very interesting. So that's where I'm at today.
You gotta start using words like cap and Riz and
oh my god,
what else did they say?
Slaps.
Hey, slaps ain't bad.
I didn't say it was bad. I just said that's what that slaps. This song slaps. But oh god, Riz,
I go the other way. I'm like, evening, Reginald. That is buttons on top. It is. Oh my god, Jesus Christ.
Pip pip, dude.
Pip, my rizzed out homeboy.
See that picture of freaking Steve Buscemi, and then he's has the skateboard and the backwards hat or something. He's like, "Hello, fellow youth." It's so funny. But yeah, that's where I've been at. I have been just trying to be nice to myself to get through these holiday times, and yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. What about you?
Oh man! I'm gonna freaking join the choir with how much that shit sucks.
Wait.
I'm not even gonna try. I do not have a singer's voice.
Oh.
I wish I could, but.
Whoa.
Damn it, Bobby.
Work on your mental health.
God damn it, Bobby. You need to see a therapist.
Oh my god, they're doing a reboot of that show.
They are. We'll see how that goes. Apparently Bobby's supposed to be a chef or some shit, and he's all older now.
But the guy that played Dale died this year, I think.
Did he?
Yeah, the guy that played the voice of Dale died this year. And then Cotton's dead. That's one of the things that how the last series or the first series died, right? Or ended.
Yeah, I think he died.
So he died. I wonder if they're gonna find out what Boomhauer is. Like everybody's gonna find out what. Because I'm just like, how does he pay for that? What does he do? Like we see what Hank does and Dale does.
I thought he was like a CIA worker or some shit.
He's like, I thought he's like a fucking sheriff or some shit. Like
Yeah.
I remember the badge. And I was like, what? Crazy. How do they understand him?
I saw like that episode where it shows things through the eyes of Boomhauer.
And everyone talks like him.
He's like, Hank, you need to calm down. And Hank's like, oh, dango, what did Boomhauer, dango. Everything was just backwards.
It's just fucking
I was like,
funny.
freaking Christ, man.
So freaking silly. But anyway, outside of that, you said you're not going to attempt to sing, but what's going on?
Life sucks, as you're well aware. I'm not happy with anything at all right now.
Yeah, I've been listening to your cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
What's going on?
Let's see. What do we want to fill chat in on? I've lost all motivation to do anything, in case you guys haven't noticed by my non-existent stream schedule. I haven't had the ability to enjoy pretty much anything. I find no humor in stuff hardly anymore. It's like things that used to make me happy and laugh and stuff doesn't exist. Music doesn't make me feel good. Like the podcasts I used to watch don't make me feel good. Watching streams, playing video games, it just nothing. I'm just doing it out of repetition at this point. Exercising doesn't make me feel good. Sleeping doesn't make me feel good. Like I can't find motivation to do fucking anything. I wake up in the morning and I just say, shit. Again, we have to do this. Like the only time I feel good is the first 5 minutes after waking up, when I'm still kind of kicking online, and then once like I'm awake, I was like, oh yeah, this isn't great.
Yeah.
So, and then all I want to do is be in bed all the time.
Yeah. I have a sneaking suspicion. Well, I have to say it offline, because if not, like then I'm going against the rules of what I say for everybody. But we're gonna chat about that. But nonetheless, you want to share with everyone what's your plan for next month?
Next month, hopefully, I'm gonna have a therapist. Hopefully. Yay! That's the big key word, because I need to be able to get in and get in quick before that shit fills up.
Yeah, shit. Yeah. I wouldn't worry about that too fucking much, because so many people don't. A lot of people are dropping out of mental health, at least from my side of my little slice of the world of it all, and it is like downright like wild.
Isn't that a good thing?
Well, in some capacity, like right now, like okay, let's just say, for instance, as an example, the place that I get contracted in to work at, if they were like doing pretty, like where they're at their usual, they would have a milieu, or a size of how many clients are there. They'd have that about a total between each level of care that they overlook. They would have that at around like somewhere between the 45 to 50 person range, right?
Okay.
Right now, I think they have 24.
Oof.
So now, on one hand, does that impact me and my work? No, because I am specialized in something that's in really high demand.
Yay.
And yay. However, it is quite tricky because a lot of, at least my work especially, is dependent on how many people are on my caseload and so forth. Like right now, I have a full caseload. Like I cannot take a single more client in any capacity. I have I'm trying to think. I have full capacity of my individual clients at the higher levels of care. I have the full capacity of clients at the outpatient level of care, and I'm at the high capacity or the full capacity of me running group therapy. And this is all important because these are different things, and some clinicians do individual, some just do couples, some just do groups, some people just do um, see kiddos, some people just see adults, demographic preferences and so forth. But mine is I see folks that are 18 years plus that at the individual level, at the highest levels of care outside of hospitalization. And then I also see clients at the outpatient level of care, which is where you see like a therapist like once a week or every other week or once a month.
Right.
And then I also run 4 group therapy groups. So yeah, it's a little wild. Yet I also know like a lot of people, especially during this time of year, like start canceling seeing their therapist because for the holidays. But sometimes when they cancel, it's like they never go back, and so there's just a bunch of openings. And I don't think I heard any wait lists happening around anywhere right now. So kind of interesting right now, to say the least. It could be different because of different symptomology and stuff like that, but yeah, that's kind of like what's just from my perspective right now. So I have high hope for you.
Yeah, I hope so, because I need it.
Yeah, I definitely hear the cognitive distortions have really just played their part in the exacerbation of emotional
Trauma.
No, I mean, yeah, honestly, in itself, because it's like if you keep on being in that environment and reinforcing it, both in the environment that you're in or internally, it eventually just disconnects you from your emotional experiences. Because again, your body can't tell the difference of emotions feel good or feel bad. It's a lot of it the same signals. The one that defines if it's a good feeling or a bad feeling is you, which is wild. Yeah, so I definitely am excited to see what is the future for Kilted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the bad part was, like I've mentioned this to you before, is obviously I spotted this ship on the horizon months ago. If, like, probably over a year ago, probably a year and a half ago, about 18 months ago, 18 to 24 months ago, and it's just like, I tried what I could and just no resources. So.
Yeah. No, that's kind of like one of the things that happens and everything like that. And like there's this concept and I'm going to say this once again for anyone that's listening. This is just a concept. Please, for the love of God, don't fucking self-diagnose. There's this term mental health world that is called dysthymia. And dysthymia kind of like defines for like it's kind of like where there's just a chronic or a very significant level of just low mood that where it's like really hard or it's very difficult for an individual to feel any sense of happiness. And if how do I say this? If an individual has experienced dysthymia, it's kind of like a milder but long-lasting form of depression. And if because again, it could go the duration of how long it takes. It could go that can vary, but if it gets to where it's like taking a long time, or it feels like it's like at least 2 years, I think you have to at least have it for at least 2 years before then it is considered what used to be, or no, it doesn't matter what it used to be. What it's called now is called persistent depressive disorder, and I feel a lot of people are familiar with major depressive disorder, but depressive disorder is kind of like in the range of like much more a low hum of depression, where you just have this low mood that just lasts for years. um and it has to just like meet, I think, like two of the symptoms of depression for the 2 years, whereas major depressive disorder would include more symptoms, and I think has a different uh what is it, I think it's like you need to have, or like when it comes to like the symptoms, like it's a, yeah, I think it's a different duration. But anyway, the whole point is that like I think many times people just keep on just writing it off like, oh, I'm just depressed, but it's like, but but depression, first of all, there's major things that are important. There's a difference between experiencing what you define as depressed, what is depression, and what version of depression you may be living with. Um, so yeah, I think that's always really important to kind of like differentiate.
Gotcha.
You have any questions about that?
Uh, Not really, because I can't like say, "Oh, that's me," because I'm
Sure.
not a professional. I mean, the last thing
Uh,
I heard from both my doctor and when I was seeing that temporary therapist at the school, they
mm.
both said that I have severe depression
Oh,
based off
okay.
of their little things. But
Oh,
uh,
well, then that might be what's going on.
yeah,
Is major depressive disorder, and then that is then put into its own category of like severity. Um, because it's like there's persistent and then there's major, and then that could be from mild to severe, depending, and that depends on how many uh symptoms that you may be reporting or experiencing to have reported.
mm-hmm.
So, or reported experiencing. So yeah. Um but yeah, depressive, like when it comes to like depressive diagnoses and so forth, I feel like many a time people like, I think a lot of times like depression, anxiety, trauma, these are a lot of terms that people like throw around a lot of times but don't understand what like that means. Like, what was I gonna say? Like for a long time, like I'll even share because again, I'm off the clock, I don't give a fuck.
Welcome,
I've been like,
bandstand. They say jerking off keeps my depression at bay. Much love. I mean, yeah, I'll be honest with you, that used to, but eventually it got to a point where that actually made things worse. And
yeah,
I'll be honest with people on stream, I have not done that in over 6 months. So,
yeah.
because it's just it's not a good time anymore. So that's been
Like
a
when it
no go.
like there's many like diagnoses in depressive disorders. Like there's like I think that's one's more for like folks that are, I could be getting it wrong, but there's so different depressive disorders can include like the disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. There's MDD, major depressive disorder, and that could look like that could range from mild to moderate. It could be, is it just a single episode? Is it a reoccurring episode? Does it have other specifiers like with psychotic features? Are you somebody that's in partial remission or in full remission? And then there's other specifiers that have stuff like that are like with anxious distress, with mixed features, with melancholic features.
What's a
Um, it,
melancholic feature?
so melancholy. So it's just like, so like with melancholic features, how do I describe it? It's like, let me give me a second. My brain is being a silly brain. It's like you, for like a certain amount of time in a current episode, you have like, you meet, I think you have to have like meet like loss in pleasure in all or most all activities, or a lack of reactivity in what are usually pleasurable stimuli. So you have to have one or both of that. And then the other one is like you have to meet 3 criteria of something along the lines of different psych or diagnoses, such as like depression is regularly worse in the morning, early morning awakening. I think there's like a distinct quality of depressed moods are profound by things such as like despair or so-called empty mood. There's like psychomotor agitation, or so there's either like there's a significant increase in like your bodily movements, or a significant decrease in your bodily movements, where it's just like you don't like move too fast at all, and your arms feel like really heavy, so you don't move that, or you move them a lot.
Yeah, I've definitely slowed down. I realize I don't even walk as fast as I used to. I'm just like, I not literally drag my feet, but I'm just not in a hurry to do anything anymore.
Yeah, and then there's other elements, at least to the melancholic features, where it's like, oh, like you may also have things that impact, that may even represent or look like other, like feeding or eating diagnoses, such as like anorexia-like behaviors, or just weight loss-like behaviors. And I think the other one's like an excessive or disproportionate like feeling of guilt. So it's like these are all mental health symptoms, and a lot of times I feel like it's so, what I have such a beef with society is that like a lot of times, because at least in Western civilization, I feel like a lot of times people are measured of their value based on like productivity or something along the lines. So when they're experiencing a diagnosis like this, which is completely out of their control, then they feel like they keep getting reinforced the message of like it's their fault. However, we're talking about brain chemicals.
Vanessa, are you talking to a doctor right now on the phone? This is my sister Asteria. She is a professional licensed therapist. Was it family, and what is it specifically?
It's a marriage and family therapist.
Gotcha. And she specializes in like substance abuse and
trauma
and mental health disorders, stuff like that. So, is she a doctor? No, she does not have a PhD. But
no.
Is she?
But I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, she's thinking about it, but
I've been thinking about it for years.
Yeah, she is licensed and certified, highly certified in a lot of different areas of mental health. So she knows her shit, like better than most. Yeah, she knows too much. Sometimes, as we discussed earlier, she has a hard time turning it off.
Yeah, and that's the humanistic of it all. It's like when you know a lot. I feel like this is how I feel for a lot of people that go to school. I've heard a lot of people that don't go to college, or I've heard the message go around like, oh, if you go to college, you get brainwashed. I was like, well, you mean, is your brain going to be altered by an influx and exposure to various elements of education and different worldview? Yes. Yeah. Of course that's gonna happen. That happens if you go anywhere outside of your immediate surroundings, you silly little goose.
Yeah, you can go to the next state and have that happen.
Yeah, it'll be a whole different world. Don't you dare close your eyes. So yeah, like the thing is that like yeah, there's just, so like even when I hear you, it's like I don't feel like it's just, I think so many times people get so quick to just blaming the individual. And I've even heard the message of like, oh, it's all in your head. And I'm like, well, you mean where the mental health is?
Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah, it is. I mean, they're not wrong.
I
But
think the cancer's all in your lungs. You mean my lung cancer?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
So.
next time somebody's like, I'm hungry, it's like, yeah, it's all in your head. It's like, yeah, that's usually where the signals are coming from. That's why you're hungry. Your brain's like, hey, bud, time for calories and maybe some water. You ever been thirsty?
Oh my gosh, I laugh so hard because where I work, I'm like known as the water advocate. I commonly end like my group therapies where I always say drink water, not just coffee. You know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times they're like, was that directed to me? I was like, you see how I didn't tell anyone specifically, but if the shoe fits. I even got sent by one of my good friends slash colleagues this video that it's like it shows two people, or like it shows uh it shows an individual talking to like this wrinkly sad creature.
Mm-hmm.
That's like me explaining that drinking water is a basic need for human survival, and then it's like the other one's like my severely dehydrated girlfriend, and they're just like you to the clients. I always encourage drinking water because everyone's like, oh, haha, water's so important. I was like, I encourage drinking water because a lot of the things that you need for energy require food, water, and rest. So, in addition to water, drinking water makes you do and forces you to do breathing exercises. So, and that's why I suggest it so much.
I don't think I've been drinking enough water, or maybe not enough, but as much as I normally do. But I think that's partially due to the fact that it's just colder out.
Sure.
I think over the weekend, what day was it? It was either earlier this week or over the weekend, but you know, there's you've seen the water bottle I take to the gym, right?
Yeah, I've seen it.
All right, so I took down probably maybe this last week. I took down like 3 of those, or like 3 or 4 of those in one afternoon. And I was looking at it, I was like, that's almost a gallon. I mean, I was just downing it because I was just super thirsty. I don't know what was going on that day.
Being silly. No, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, like right now, I filled up this thing I'm drinking out of, which is, oh god, ounces, milliliters. It was 1,000 milliliters. So was that a liter?
Jeez.
Yeah,
1,000 milliliters.
Yeah, it's a liter. So, and I'm over halfway through that already. I put a liquid IV in it.
Dang.
Because liquid IV is awesome. I wish it would sponsor me, but I don't do anything that requires a sponsorship. So, yeah.
Sponsor him because he's a fan, and he'll tell more people.
Yes. Now, I should just get sponsored by all the products that I use that are like I stand by. It's like Liquid IV, Oakley, Rain-X. Fuck, there was another one. Just like something. Oh yeah, the Remarkable.
Oh my god!
Yeah, give me those 4. Give me Oakley, Remarkable, Liquid IV, and Rain-X. I'm just like, that's some good stuff right there. That shit fucking works.
And what? That's just gonna that's the whole fucking McCircle for you, dude. Yeah, fucking ridiculous and yet hilarious at the same time. What was I gonna say? Yeah, to kind of go back to the point of like this time of year to where it's like, oh, not even like interested in doing your like routine and everything like that. I think I want to say like I feel that with you. Like at first I was initially like beating myself up about like not sticking to my routines. Because I just couldn't find the energy. And it's just kind of goddamn near difficult. And so I was like, oh, this is because I'm failing. And I internalized it, which is ironic and is like what I was just saying. However, it doesn't matter about how much you know. I think that's always a misconception is like, people think like just because you know how what's going on, that automatically changes what's going on, and that's just not how that works.
Mm-hmm.
So my therapist, so I'm gonna give you all this one as a freebie on the house. No worries, I already paid for it. Uh,
It's just like
uh,
sharing Netflix accounts. Here we go.
here you,
I already paid for it.
here's
Now you get to use it.
you can use it. Here's my password. Join us on Therapy Thursdays. That's the password. Um, but she was telling me, she was like, she's trying, because my therapist, I've been working with her for a year. So she knows what's up. She was trying to tell me that the thing is that I equate my value to my productivity. And I said yes. But she's like, well, and then we explored it some more, and it's because a lot of my productivity would manage and support a lot of my discomfort and pain surrounding my own traumas. And I was like, so, she's so good. I'm already telling her, everyone. I always tell people, I'm like, oh, like no one's talking. And I was like, did I tell you how great my therapist is?
Did you get her a Christmas present?
No, because I know it kind of like puts therapists, like that's a whole different thing, but like we have ethical guidelines related to being gifted gifts.
It can't happen until they're out of your not care, but they're not a client of yours anymore, kind of deal.
That could be one thing, but it also has to be that the gifts can't exceed a certain amount. Because if not, then it disproportionates the relationship with the client. And where it's like, if a client made something for me, I can accept that. If a client got me a gift and it's underneath $15, let's just say, I can accept that. Unless that was their only $15. That's
Gotcha.
a different story. But if they're like, hey, I got you like hockey tickets, like freaking ringside, no fucking way. There's no fucking way I can accept that. And it would break my heart, and I can't accept it. Because I love hockey. But yeah, it's kind of just tricky in that. So I just don't want to put my therapist in that position in any capacity.
Gotcha.
Because she doesn't like I don't owe her anything. That's the whole thing about the therapeutic relationship. That's why I love it so much, is that like the way that we dismiss the opportunities of resentment between her and I just show up for the sessions that I agree to, because that's respecting her time boundaries. I actually listen to what she's sharing with me and like follow through with getting the support that she provides, and I pay her. Like
Gotcha.
that's enough, right?
Yeah.
So in that, she was telling me how a lot of my value and a lot of the love that I felt like I would get was surrounding how productive I was. And I was like, can you kind of have me, like, even if I know what she needs, I want to hear her perspective. And what she points out to me, which was kind of eye-opening in itself, was she's like, well, of course, because you were put in a position to be everything that your parents wanted you to be. And you thought to continue to keep their love, you had to keep being that for them. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And so, give a little insight about the parental dynamic, and at least in my perspective, is that, so again, Kilton and I share a father. And my exposure to father
Jesus.
is
No, I had a thought, and I don't know why my brain went there. You're like, we share a father. I was like, yeah, she gets him on the weekends. I get him during the weekdays. We share custody. No.
we drop him off at the we exchange after school pickup.
There we go.
And so But the thing about, at least what I've kind of figured along the way with like our dad, is that our dad had a lot of instilled shame and a lot of instilled guilt, right? And because he had, what is it? Trauma. Because that shit doesn't start with you. I'm talking to you listening to us right now. The trauma didn't start with you, and it probably won't end. So anyway, the thing is that because of multi-generational trauma, um he kept on wanting me specifically, because it's the only one I could speak on of. He really wanted me to be like really successful in life. And so he thought his way to present love to me was me, or pushing me to go up and beyond. So I attended AP classes or advanced placement classes. I was a part of the GATE program. My friendships are monitored, that I only hung out with like the quote good kids. I I got the speech on on drugs and sex and all these things almost all the time. And so I kept on being pushed to be this version of what he wanted me to be. But it was all kind of like to manage what he wanted for himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was the only way to get his love. So we've also equated that once I was like, I went literally from pre-K to 12, and I went straight into college. And then I went straight into my grad program. And what my therapist and I also are identifying is that the time that I was with my ex was like my rebellious teens, or the equivalence of, even though I was no longer a teenager at that time,
Mm-hmm.
because it was everything that I knew he wouldn't want me to have as a partner. And it's true, like he wasn't even in the picture at that point anymore, our dad, at least in my picture. I haven't talked to him for 10 years.
Same.
But he but I knew that's everything that he didn't want to be. And to make a super long story short, he even met my ex, and like passed the message along through family members back to me about how he didn't like him, and that kind of just like fueled something inside of me. Anyway, and all of that, she said the problem is that I kept on getting the message that the only way that I had value is how successful I was. And this is how trauma can enable the message of perfectionism in people, and knowing that perfectionism is very subjective, and it looks differently for each individual, because perfectionism doesn't exist. It's subjective and it's unobtainable, or you'll experience momentary feelings of it, but that's the thing, it'll be very momentary. And when I kind of took this all in, I kind of started then, in the last like month or in month and a half or so, I started kind of, or especially in the last couple of weeks, I kind of took a step back about like some themes I started picking up from how people would like address me or associate thoughts about me.
Okay.
And what? Like, for instance, like one of the common ones is like how about like the financial success quotes that I have. And again, this isn't to kind of, I'm just being very like open about this. I worked really hard so that like my motivation for my financial stability was because of trauma. Because I grew up very I grew up significantly poor.
Yay.
And so I didn't want to deal with the discomfort and the pain that came up with being that. And now I have one of the characteristics of, oh, this is how much money Asteria makes, or oh, you're not going to believe, like, oh, you're going to be okay. Oh, it's like, oh, like, oh, da 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 da, comments about that. And I never was open and honest about how uncomfortable that was. Because it's like, I didn't do this for this. I did this because I starved at various times growing up. And I did this because I lived in environments with cockroaches and bugs in my food. And I got food from like the churches and stuff.
You're giving me flashbacks. Stop it.
You're welcome.
I hated those days.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I think it's so important to talk about it, because it's like I don't have shame about that because I didn't have any control about that. And so in me trying to get control about that, I now have this connotation related to me that I'm uncomfortable with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I just kind of start getting really quiet about all those things. But that's like one example. And another example is like I was talking about earlier about like me not knowing the difference of being like I don't know how to be a 28-year-old. And I kind of sat back and I was like, when I would like I had these feelings towards some of the folks that are like younger even in my field, as an example. But then I kind of sat back and I'm like, why do I have these like feelings of like whatever towards them? Like I was kind of just like bothered by them. But then I realized it was because like what I would interpret is that they seem to come across in a way that they knew how to be their age, right? And so they would also say it's like they're like, oh, I don't like, they told me they're like, I didn't want to disappoint you because you always seemed like you were so well put together and knew what you were doing, when at the same time I was having like I'd go home and fucking have like mental breakdowns. So I was like, from just the job and like the active performance or like the need to perform and do my job so well, right? And it's like I had to do a lot of like unlearning and deciphering about this shit. And so it took a lot of like active change. And one of the things I continue to like always tell people, whether it's in the field, whether it's outside of the field, is that being a human is to change. It's constantly an ebb and flow. And I think a lot of times people want so greatly to get to a place where like they don't have to worry about their mental health anymore. However, if you don't keep on top of that, it can take the power away from you really quickly. And I'm not saying like you don't get a chance at speech or anything like that. It's just like, but if you also are chronically ignoring it, there's going to be consequences of that too. I'm in the field studying this shit all the time, and I still have to like work on myself. I think just like anything, like even for you, as you've kind of like identified in your journey of like physical health, it's like even if you get to a certain point in your journey of physical health, if you just stop or you go back and to other habits and stuff like that, it's going to affect what you've been working on. And yes. I think that's the same reflection to mental health.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, I guess with anything, you can't just be like, all right, my teeth are white now, I'm going to stop brushing them.
Right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that. And it's like the way that we view ourselves, the way we talk about ourselves, it has a lot of weight, in my opinion. And I realized like the responsibility I had to take was like, how do I want to talk about myself? Despite if I believe it or not, it's like, what is it even like the version of me that I feel like holds peace and lightness, which is the values of what I do all my work for, is that I want peace and I want to feel light. And so I don't feel so much heaviness, is also somebody that talks kind about themselves. And so I don't know. I've heard so many mean things along the way that it's like how can I also then be hating all the mean things said to me and then become my own bully? And that one was a difficult pill to swallow. So yeah, do you relate to anything that's been kind of like discussed so far?
I mean, yeah. And the thing I've been struggling with, like the whole, well, this is one of the big problems, unfortunately, with my life, is just the only person I have to talk to, not like fucking most of the time, is myself.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I try to say good things about myself, for some reason it doesn't work.
Well, it's gonna take a long time because
Yeah. And then, you know, I try to say good things about myself around other people, and a lot of people like shooting that down. So,
well,
I mean, school, work, you know, just everywhere I go. It's just, I'll say something, you know, I've said this at work before, and I got reprimanded for saying it. You know, I said, you know, they were like, hey, they were saying something about a project. I don't know. I forgot what it was. And I was like, hey, man, you know, the reason they come to us is because I'm good at what I do. I am the highest, I say that I'm the best post-tension foundation designer in this half of the state. And I said that to them, and they're like, you need to get that shit out of your head. You can't think like that. I was like, all right, cool. You know, whatever. You know, I say that I'm good at what I do, and there's a reason why they like working with me. And then you're just like, no. It's like, we're in the same office, and you're telling me no about my qualifications. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Because that's the thing that I'm trying to say is like, it also comes down to the environment that you're in. Like, I've had clients many times where like they're getting ready to terminate treatment or like discharge from treatment because they're graduating or something. And one of the things that I do is that I review with them. I was like, hey, I want to make it very clear to you that just because things are different in your internal space doesn't automatically mean that everything around you is also going to change. I think it's a really hard piece because it's like a lot of times it's like I even remember in 12 step, because I've been in around it so long, is there's a really great message that stated it's like you can't heal in the environment you got sick in.
Right.
And it's like, the thing is about these types of environments, and the privilege I have to recognize is that like I'm in an environment that promotes these types of dialogues about self, because again, it comes down to emotional intelligence, and a lot of professions, and again, in a westernized civilization, that it promotes productivity at the trade out of like authenticity and like mental care and emotional wellness, is that people don't get lessons of like how to reinforce supporting one another a lot of times, or that when they hear people talking good about them, they automatically think that they're like full of themselves, or something, because again, it's a reflection of them, because they're uncomfortable with it, because they don't have good, or they don't have a set love for themselves either, and so they knock people down because they're just uncomfortable with it themselves, right? And so that's one of the things, like, I think is quite difficult. However, would I still encourage? Yes. Like, and what I am encouraging is that even if they're saying things like that and they're like, oh, you need to get that out of your head, and still saying, but then it's like, instead of full stopping it there and saying, oh, you're right, I think I always encourage the message of like, why? Like, there's so much power in the question of why. I question shit all the time. Because it's like, what harm is it to have this belief about self, right? Or what about this makes you uncomfortable? Things such as these ways, because, or like, what does it mean to you if I have high regard about myself, right? And if it's really coming down where you're trying to exhibit care about me not becoming rigid and not allowing my opportunity to learn, then you can actually change the approach as to why that is. However, unless you're willing to teach me what is the reinforcement of your message, it's empty and it's just a reflection of yourself. That's what I do all the time. Even in my environment, I kept on like trying to like keep myself small, because when people would compliment me, I'd be very uncomfortable. Because again, what did have I tied reinforcement with? The messages from our dad, right? However, it's like, I had to learn the difference between the power I gave to others and the power I gave to myself. And that's the lineup between having people think that they know me and me knowing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, even in my environment, I always like to exert the message of like, oh, I know this, right? And if someone's like, hey, like, no, this is wrong, I'm just like, oh, well, here's the things that kind of support my thoughts and so forth. But I have to remember that the times if I'm ever trying to like defend my knowledge, I have to like step back and think, is this for me or is this for them? Because I can't force people to think I know my shit. I just have to believe I know my shit and demonstrate it to the best of my abilities. And if somebody disagrees, that's their choice at this point. But one of the things I have to emphasize is that I didn't get to this thought process overnight. This has been a journey. I have been somebody that has lived a riddled life of cognitive distortions. I talked myself so bad for so long, even being a therapist, which is not as uncommon as people think it is. So it's like, I started to kind of keep in mind cognitive distortions, which I think there's like 9 of them. Like there's 9 like distinct cognitive distortions. I think there's like a few that have like branched off examples of it. Mm-hmm. But like those 9 cognitive distortions I try to keep in mind, because I constantly like, hey, that's what's showing up, right? So if you're interested, we can go over the cognitive distortions, if you want to bring that into the stream today.
Sure, we can. You get started on that. I am going to run to my restroom really quick and grab an Excedrin, because I got a migraine coming on and it's bugging the piss out of me.
Okay, and okay, I'll go ahead and get started because you can still hear me, right?
There's like one point where it kind of cuts out, but I should be able to hear it.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started in talking about cognitive distortions. So, I don't know. Here's here. Filtered is the one that can see these things. So if there's any questions along the way, I'll go ahead and wait till he kind of supports and feeds back to me if there's any comments or concerns about all that. But anyway, let's get started. So, cognitive distortions are irrational thoughts that kind of impact the way that we view the world, how we feel, and really important pieces like how we view ourselves and how we behave, right? So, I want to normalize that it's normal to have like these cognitive distortions at an occasional level. However, if they get to a point where they become pretty frequent or even extreme or kind of like occupy a lot of mental thought and perspective, that now we're going to start talking about mental diagnoses. And that's where, like, because again, the line between having traits of certain diagnoses and having full-fledged diagnoses is how impactful it is to functioning and the ability to live life with more control, right? So we're going to start with the first one, okay? I'm going to read it, and then you can tell me either what, or you could say it in your own words, and or you can tell me if you relate to it. Sound like a plan?
Okay.
Okay. The first one is called, and it has a subsection to it, so I'm going to read that one after. I think it's like the extreme version of it. Yeah. So the first one is called magnification and minimization. So exaggerating or minimizing the importance of events. You might believe your own achievements are unimportant, or that your mistakes are excessively important, right? Or significantly like life-threatening, and so forth. So the subset to that one is called catastrophizing, where you're seeing only the worst possible outcomes of a situation. Okay, it's your turn.
I mean, yeah. Because, yeah, now, like, even successes that I have, I don't really, like, see them as successes. It's just something that's been done. I mean, I remember just, like, along my fitness journey and stuff, like, when I started getting into racing, at first it was like, holy shit, this is amazing, I did this. Like, that's a hell of an achievement. And now I look over at my freaking wall of medals and I'm just like, fucking whatever. I mean, I did that race in Phoenix and I finished. I was like, well, that was the end of that day. I'm like, I didn't feel anything about it. I was just like, that was something I did. And I just fucking went home.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I don't know if it's because I've done it so many times or I don't know, maybe I'm just not around the right people because, I don't know, maybe it was something like in the beginning, it was something where you realized, oh my god, this shit's freaking hard, and now we pulled it off, and now that it's become so normal, I'm just like, whatever, and I don't know, I try to bring more people into it. It's like when I'm around people who don't understand the crap, then I kind of feel more accomplished. Does that make any sense?
Could you kind of like talk more about it to make sure I understand?
Like, I'm just going to stick with the fitness thing. If I was around people who don't do that kind of stuff, and then I watch them attempt it, that's when I realize, oh yeah, this shit isn't easy.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of like even like with school, I just finished, I don't know if I passed yet because my freaking professor's dragging ass, but like doing.
Oh, I hate that for you.
Yeah. He's supposed to have the shit turned in by Sunday at the latest. But you know, like I just finished Calc 3, and I
Which
look
is
at,
madly impressive.
well, we'll see if I passed, but I look at that and I don't go, wow, that's an accomplishment. Because I look around, you know, there people say, oh, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people, but I look around and I see so many people doing better, and I go, okay, this must not be that hard. And I don't know, like I look at that kind of like just stuff like that, and it kind of takes my brain off on a tangent where it's like people say, surround with yourself with people that are better than you, so you have, you know,
Who the heck says that?
I've heard it around. So people are like, if you not better than you, like better than you at like certain things, be like, you know, if you want to get in shape, get your ass around someone who's in shape and knows how to do it, because they are going to be able to, like, you know, motivate you and show you how it's done, blah blah. Kind of like with Poggy. I mean, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
Okay, so Poggy being like the fucking math fucking wizard, surrounding myself with him, well, you know, having, you know, being near that guy, he just having him around it brings out my ability to push further and understand things better. But then on the other side of the spectrum, I also kind of got to be around people that suck at it, so I can feel like, hey, you know, this isn't easy, like, and you are doing a good job. Because if you're only around people that are better than you, you're going to feel like a piece of shit. If you're only around shitty people, then you're not going to strive to be better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, what the hell were we talking about again?
We're
minimizing,
talking about cognitive distortions and some minimization.
Yeah, minimization and catastrophization or whatever.
Yeah, minimization, magnification, and catastrophization.
Yeah, so the minimization, you know, I've achieved stuff and it doesn't seem that great now. I mean, I own my own home in Southern California, even though I grew up literally being homeless at points and literally not having food at points, to, you know, being somewhat stable.
Right.
And then on the catastrophization side, you know, if, you know, just like small shit where, let's say, like, I don't meet a deadline, or I don't get a good grade on like one assignment, or I mean, I don't go to the gym on a day I was supposed to go. It fucking eats at me so damn badly. There's just this feeling of, you failed, you should have done better. Like, this is gonna fucking set you back.
Yeah.
You need to fucking stop dragging ass. You need to pick up, like, get your shit together. And that's bumming me out, because being in my mental state, I don't have the fucking energy to do it. And I'm doing everything I can think of to push my ass out the fucking door and get the shit done. But
sure,
it's just the dopamine's not there. The motivation is not there.
Because again, it's a chemical. It's like that whole chemical thing, right? And it's like, and even in that, right, it's like, one of the things I've learned along the way is that sometimes your body makes you feel heavier, or like exacerbates your mental health to like tell you to slow down and tells you to like get rest. And as much as like people like, no, that doesn't happen, and I'm saying that like that because I've heard people say that way too commonly to me. And I was like, yes, it does. And here's a great example. Have you ever worked so hard, then all of a sudden in your busiest times of the year, you commonly, that's also the time you get sick, like where you're like out of commission, can't do work at all? Is because
mine's slightly different in that aspect. For some reason, when I get super busy, and I like somehow find that kick in the ass to get something done, I will push through it, but then as soon as it ends,
it's over.
yeah, as soon as it's over,
That's what
then
I'm
I get
saying.
sick.
That's also what I'm trying to tell you, because it's like the same thing. Now think about that instead of physiological health into mental health. So it's like let's say for example, like during when you're coming up to the end of a semester, right? Let's just say, and then all of a sudden you start to recognize that your mental health gets worse. A lot of times, especially students, they're like, oh, it's just because of the stress of the classes. It's like, yes, it is the stress of classes, and your body exacerbates how heavy it is because you're under such chronic constant stress that your body's sending out the signals and begging you to listen to it to slow down, because it can't tell the difference that this is a good thing or a bad thing, or that you have to do this or not. It just gets the signals of warning, warning, your human is in distress, and um not, it doesn't keep in mind, oh, I'm in a socialized environment that forces me to do this in order to be a productive member of society. Like, it doesn't know socialization like that, or to that capacity, because that's all newer social skills that we, that, because again, being socialized creatures. um and then, so it makes everything so much worse, and right when you're done with everything, then you can't fucking do anything. This is why when people get to a point of like where they're burnt out and they go on vacation and they're like, oh, let's go do things and have fun, you're like, I don't want to do anything outside of just laying on in my bed or on a couch and doing fucking mindless anything, because your body is sending the signals, make it stop. And to the point where it's telling you you have over exacerbated the use of your dopamine, so now we're gonna shut it off, right? Bless you. And so what happens in these times is that, like, this is prime times where like irrational thoughts come in, because your body's doing what it's naturally doing to help you feel better, but your irrational thoughts have learned that if I send out these signals to reiterate these negative thoughts or these irrational thoughts to you, that it'll motivate you to do the things so that you minimize emotional pain. So you get caught between the space between managing your mental pain and your emotional pain, which is fucking, that's what I'm saying. Is many times people are like, oh, I understand mental health. You don't know shit. It's okay. You don't know it. Guess what? I study it. I don't know shit either. It's okay. Let's all just not know things, right? So just keep that in mind real quick, because we still got a few to go over. Another one is called overgeneralization. So making broad interpretations from a few or a single event. A quote or an example being, I felt awkward during my job interview. I am always so awkward. Right?
Okay.
So it's like many times people think like just because they do this very rarely, that means it defines who they are. Right? And one of the things that come up, this kind of goes back more to the last one that the last ones we were just talking about, but I want to mention before we get too far, is that this is where mental spirals come into play, because irrational thoughts, if left unsupported, can fucking send you off the rails. The reason being is because your body keeps thinking you need these signals in order to move, because they keep getting reinforced and they're not getting challenged. And so when you don't listen to them, your body also gets another silly signal that says, oh, I just have to do more of it, then you'll listen to me. Or like, and that fucking sucks, because then now you're hearing that you're talking down upon yourself, but then your chemicals are also saying, hey, don't do anything because you've overexerted us. Like, or we feel overexerted. And so what do humans commonly do? They make it a point of like blaming themselves. So, which is fucking, it's one of my pet peeves. It's such a fucking pet peeve, like fucking disgusting. Anyway, yeah, so people make broad assumptions of like, just because I do it once or a few times, that therefore it defines who I am. Got any thoughts on that one?
Um, I would say yes, but no.
That's okay. Like, you don't have to, just checking in more than anything.
Yeah, like there's things where I think, oh, that's who I am because said situation happened, but I'm trying to think, well, it's happened enough to where it's been reinforced. So, yeah, I don't know. That one's hard to tell.
Okay, then we'll just go on to the next one. Magical thinking. This one's a cognitive distortion. I highlight this one all the time because I hear it so common in my job, especially working in trauma, that I'm just like, I I just want to bring y'all into the real image of what it looks like when I'm running a group therapy. Is that I just straight up say, I'm like, it's like, and if your symptoms are like, if your symptoms weren't listening before, I hope they hear me now. And I say that. And they're all like, ha ha ha. And I'm like, and I just like, I'm not joking. Anyway.
I'm serious.
I'm serious. And then, so here's magical thinking, which is something that's so common, especially with the population that I work with. The belief that thoughts, actions, or emotions influence unrelated situations. Here is an example. If I hadn't stopped for something, or I hadn't hoped something bad would happen to him, he wouldn't have gotten into an accident. Or the other one where it's like, no, I think that's more for another cognitive distortion. But yeah, if I hadn't thought something bad, of wanting something bad to happen to somebody, then they wouldn't have gotten in an accident, as if those two things correlated.
Kind of like saying Macbeth before you perform Macbeth.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Have you heard that one?
No, I haven't. Tell me about it.
So, Macbeth, I think it's like a play or whatever. It's a stage performance. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So apparently, it's bad luck to say Macbeth when you're performing Macbeth.
Oh.
So if something bad happens, you can be like, oh, because they said Macbeth. Or here's another one, and this one is actually will piss people off because I've done it. Don't say the word 7 at a craps table when a number has been established, because if you say, oh man, I hope he doesn't roll a 7, and if like that will send people off the fucking edge at a craps table.
Oh. That sounds very magical thinking, as if you saying that is what will impact the outcome.
Yes, because then if they do a roll of 7, everybody loses their fucking mind. It's like, see, because he fucking said it. You know, that I've seen it, and I've done it by accident. I'm like, all right, I'm not doing that again. Not because I believe in it, but just because I don't feel like getting fucking yelled at by superstitious people. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that doesn't happen or work like that. But anyway.
I'm just like, you just look at the how fucking dice work. You have the highest odds of rolling that number out of all the numbers that you can possibly get out of a pair of dice. So that's why it comes up so much.
Yeah, exactly. Next one is called personalization. The belief that you are responsible for events outside of your control. Quote, as an example, my mom is always upset. She would be fine if I did more to help her. So the belief that you are responsible for events outside of your control, right? The thing is, I say oh God because I said this so often, especially in the last like couple weeks, because it's like a common thing with multiple of my clients right now. Which was ironic. Quick funny story. I run a processing group, which is where people come in, share something, and then they try to get feedback or advice or something like that from peers. Mm-hmm. And multiple of my clients were in that room, and I had given them all homework to talk about this and process something, but they're like, well, since my therapist is here, and I was like, I cannot confirm or deny that. And they're like, I'm gonna use this as a space. And they're like, hey, my therapist said that too. I was like, fuck. I'm like, damn it. I thought it was funny, but I was like, I just kept saying, like, I cannot confirm or deny that. But then they got great feedback. They're like, oh, this is why my therapist suggested this. I was like, wow, your therapist sounds like they were trying to support you. Anyway,
Whoever that may be.
whoever that may be. But anyway, personalization is like the belief that you're responsible for events outside of your control. I cannot emphasize enough that there is only one thing that individuals in the world control. It is genuinely just one thing.
When to
and
poop.
itself. Yes. Not even a little bit, because after I eat Taco Bell, this is a different story. But anyway, it's more the case of like many times, especially as a result of being exposed to traumatic events and because again, people don't understand trauma, and that's okay. In that, like I hope they don't have to fucking understand and learn about trauma. It's exhausting. But it's more so like the thing is that there's this misconception that trauma has to be these big, grand, single events for it to constitute as trauma. It's like, but traumatic events and trauma could also be when you had a parent whose best intentions was to keep pushing you and keep pushing you and keep pushing you in school, and would like do things like when you were trying to vent, like, this is really hard, it's like, oh, you could do it, don't worry about it. That's trauma too.
Kind of like over, like how you see, I see this with like girls a lot, or not a lot, but this is where I see it more often with women than men. But when they grow up in a like hyper religious family and then they get out on their own after they move out, and then they just fucking go off the rails.
Yeah, and we could even extend that for everyone. It's like, even if you came from like a hyper critical or a hyper strict household too.
Oh yeah, people with sugar.
Yeah, sugar, religion, rules, all of these things, because again, the intention may have been coming from a good place. However, the message and impact to the individual impacted how they viewed themselves, their actions, the world, right? And so they didn't get taught of the why. They just kept getting told, don't. Or if you do, you're bad or you're wrong. Or you may have been demonstrated directly and indirectly, like you won't get as much love or care or attention, right?
Right.
And that consciously and subconsciously fucks with people's heads. It just does. And so in personalization, people think that they have a lot more power over things than they actually do. You only have, and this is a universal you to anyone's listening, you can only control yourself. That's it. And even then, sometimes your mental health tries to hijack that from you, right? So, but the power that you have is genuinely limited to the top of your head down to your toes. That's it.
If you have toes.
If you have toes. You're right. Thank you so much. Down to the nubs, wherever your nubs stop. That's it. Honestly, because you can't control the weather. You can't control how people view you. You can't control traffic. You can't control how people care or feel. You can't do a lot of these things, right? And so many times in trauma, especially in the world that we live in, people say it's like, well, it's your job to take care of something outside of self. It doesn't even matter if you put in your whole effort. You could put in your whole effort and you still don't get the outcome that you're working towards, right?
I can relate to that.
It is not a reflection of self, period. What it is that you did the best in the range of what you had control. So again, that very common statement of you did the best you could, because you did. That is the best you could do. It's like, if you could do, quote, better or differently, you would. It would look differently or better. And again, better subjective. And just because it's different doesn't automatically mean it's better, right? The only thing you can control is self. And when you try to continuously think that the way that things happen with other people or other things outside of self is a reflection of you, that is an irrational thought. It is a cognitive distortion. And what you're doing is you are reinforcing the trauma to continuously maneuver life and take power away from you. Full stop. Okay. Any thoughts about that before we go to the next one?
I mean, there's times that even when I do like finish something or whatever, I look back and I go, people are like, oh, you did the best you could, and I'm like, I could have done better. I just needed to try harder.
Doubt. Because many a times when you're in environments that invoke anxiety or stress or something along those lines, a lot of the abilities that you have may get shut down in you. Because when you enter these environments, your brain can't tell, again, the difference of this being a socialized thing that you have to do. It keeps getting the signals that you're in a stressful environment, so it shuts down a lot of regions in your body to get the thing done to make the stress stop. Right? So when we look back into these things, we are no longer in that stressful environment. We think, oh, this is the best that we could do. It's like, no, because no matter what you think you're 100% subjectively is, it's always going to be impacted by the chemicals that are pushed through your body when you're actually in that environment, or the chemicals that are inhibited. So no, you actually couldn't have done better. You did the best you could. And you're just viewing that through the lens of how you are outside of that stressful environment. Hence why this is a cognitive distortion.
Okay.
So there's that. Next one is jumping to conclusions. I'm about to buy everyone a trampoline because this happens so often. Y'all just be jumping. Okay, this one has two extremes that are parallel to it. Or perpendicular. Anyway, jumping to conclusions. Interpreting the meaning of a situation with little to no evidence. Interpreting the meaning of a situation with little to no evidence. And here are two other extremes related to it. Mind reading, which is interpreting the thoughts and beliefs of others without adequate evidence. Oh my goodness, this is what I'm saying a letter for those in the back. Mind reading is a cognitive distortion, which is an irrational thought because you're interpreting the thoughts and beliefs of others without adequate evidence.
Hello, Darth Jammin.
There's the quote that says, or like the example, it says, she wouldn't go on a date with me. She probably thinks I'm ugly. That's the example.
Yes.
So the cognitive distortion and the irrational thought of mind reading states that you're interpreting the thoughts and beliefs of others as facts without adequate evidence. This is a fallacy in other regions of the world. This is a fallacy because you're making assumptions without having all of the at least an enough amount of adequate information.
Right.
So that's one of the extremes of jumping to conclusions. The other jumping to conclusion extreme is fortune telling. This is another irrational thought, which states the expectation that a situation will turn out badly without adequate evidence. So this is when people are like, oh, this is going to suck. It's like, you don't know that because you're not there. And if you already think it's going to suck, you are setting yourself up for trying to fulfill a prophecy. And so your brain, your system will actively only analyze the situation to fill this prophecy that it is going to suck, and limits the other possibilities of how a situation is going to conclude. So,
right.
Jumping to conclusions, my reading, fortune telling. These are all forms of this cognitive distortion. What are your thoughts?
I'm slightly distracted because Darth Jammin is throwing a forest of fucking Christmas trees into chat right now.
Oh yeah, it's good. It's Christmas time.
Yeah.
For those it's
I'm sorry. Can you just name them again? Don't go through the description.
No worries. Jumping to conclusions, and then the two extremes of jumping to conclusions called mind reading, and the other one is fortune telling.
Right. I have been guilty of that, but I feel like I might still be guilty of that, but I feel as though I don't jump to conclusions necessarily as much, because I feel like people would think I'm jumping to conclusions, but in my head I have enough evidence for such conclusions, which
I disagree.
well, it's kind of like, I'm gonna do this, but this is probably going to happen based off of past experience, and most of the time I'm on par just based off of patterns.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, literally what I was just saying right there is that, yes, we learn off experiences and so forth. However, you can't tell the future.
Right, that's true. But
that's one. So then what happens when you say this is more than likely going to happen is that you are sending the signal to your view of the situation, and that this is truth, and then your brain will set it up of trying to A to B it to make this truth. Now, does that mean that's always the case? And like sometimes you do, and like it's true, like that happened and stuff like that. And there is still a significant impact by doing that at a chronic level, where then your brain can't accept, and it literally will blind your vision. It will blind your cognition to accept that there are other possibilities.
Okay, I hear you.
Because I've done this too. Like I want to make it very clear to everybody. Like I said earlier before we even began this, I was ran by all of these cognitive distortions for a long time, because a lot of times with cognitive distortions, this is a direct impact of improper environments to teach healthy patterns of cognitions. And I was taught to survive.
Right.
That's what I was taught. But now I'm having to learn how to live, which is a whole different experience. So it is so much, it can blind and impact your sense of reality.
Yeah.
and it's so wild because you get so accustomed to your view of the world that you're like, no, this is not what's happening because this isn't what I see. And this is why a lot of people are like, well, vision is something, or like what you see has to be truth. And I'm like, I disagree immensely. Your brain will play tricks quite often. Um, but how do you possess peace? Is that you just accept whatever you're willing and wanting to accept. However, if your sense of reality doesn't fit you, it's probably a sign that your brain has reinforced cognitive distortions for so long that it no longer benefits you and aligns with how you want to view the world. So, in order to learn a different way to see the world, you have to not just learn new ways of it, but you have to also actively unlearn the old ways that you viewed the world, which is, it takes a lot of time because people don't pick up cognitive distortions overnight. Like, that took a long time and was reinforced for a long time, but usually it was reinforced when we were so young that we don't have that sense of time of how long that was reinforced, especially teenage years. Any thoughts about that so far?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the thing I was kind of comparing it to, it's like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, is you're like, I want an ice cream, but if I go to McDonald's, that fucking machine's probably not going to be working.
Right.
Based off of past experiences. I mean, could it be working? Yeah, but don't get your hopes up.
But that's the thing. It's like, it could be working, it could not be working. And if you really wanted an ice cream, are you limited to just the ice creams from McDonald's? You know what I mean?
It depends on where you live.
But sure. Yeah. But, and again, that's really powerful what you just said. It depends on your immediate environment. Yes. As much as people are like, oh, my, the things around me don't affect me, please don't try to sell me that shit. Like, your environment directly impacts you. It brings to mind,
I don't like my environment.
and that's the thing. Maybe it's that the environment needs to change, and because I definitely know that I was at a place and I was pretty much given up on everything when I was in the environment of like being around my ex, where I thought my world was very small and I thought what my ex thought of me was very true, and I thought that was as best as it was gonna get, right? And now it's a whole different world. So sometimes, don't you dare close your eyes. And so shout out to our eldest, because I had to be 100% taken out of that old environment and put into a new environment for me to see a different way of the world. Like, and I so thought I knew so much, and I know so little, and I'm so happy I don't know much more out of it, because now I have more opportunities to learn and figure out new things, and heck, there could be so many more different ways to look upon the world. Okay, for the sake of time though, I'm gonna keep on going because we have about 4 more. The next one is called emotional reasoning. The assumption that emotions reflect the way things really are. Oh, hey, look at that. The example: I feel like a bad friend, therefore I must be a bad friend. Oh, I was riddled with this one for so long. I also kind of like, I just kept on thinking, it's like, I kept on saying like my feelings were facts, but feelings aren't facts. Feelings are feelings. So I kept on being limited, like the way the confidence I had with myself, I thought that was truth. So when people, the way I viewed myself, I was assured that's how other people saw me too. And even when people tried to compliment me, my body, my system wasn't willing to accept it. That's my example in that. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I feel a certain way, but I feel like it's been based off of my environment. So,
Sure.
I mean, people keep considering me a creepy guy, which is one that's been bugging the shit out of me a lot because I'm fucking tired of people saying that because I don't feel like anything I do warrants it. But apparently, from the messages I'm being received, whatever I am doing must be creepy. I gave you the story about the last day of school where there was someone standing there I knew and they looked bummed out, and I tried to give them a little side hug, and then later they came back like that was made me super uncomfortable. Your hand was really close to my ass, blah blah blah. I was just like, great. I'm like, why the fuck do I even try? Like,
well, it's also a matter in that example too that if that of how people like, I don't know too much out of all that, and more so of that, like, if one person is also experiencing cognitive distortions, they will, like, cognitive distortions could also feed off of each other. So if you're in an environment with folks that are actively not challenging or changing or taking care of their mental health, they're going to feed off of your mental unwellness too. And if they're okay with that and they're not wanting to change that, the person that's going to get hurt is the person that wants change. Period. So
me.
again, it's not a definition of you. It's that it reinforces this and then gets internalized, and then you get in the mental spirals, and then you become your own bully. And it then seeks this out in the name of what your brain thinks is doing to protect itself.
Yeah, I mean, that shit carries over because what happened with the doctor when I was dating her, you remember that whole situation?
Yes, exactly. This is what I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, that reinforcement comes up so bad. Even today, actually, now I think about it, I went to the gym and I said, all right, today I want to get on the Stairmaster. Because, you know, I was like, I'm trying to switch it up a bit, and I usually don't go on that thing. And typically there's always women on it. There's only like a few of them. And so I saw one open up and I got on there, and, you know, the one right next to me, there was a woman on it. And the whole time I felt like a fucking creep ass guy. Cause I'm just like, I feel like I'm too close to them. Like, they probably don't want me here. There's typically guys not on this. They're probably like, this whole irrational fucking process went through my head where they're probably like, oh, this fucking guy's creepy looking, he's standing next to me on another machine, he's probably just trying to stare at me or some shit. So I'm just like, you know, I'm just like fucking staring at my feet the whole time to make sure I don't look like that, because I don't want to be seen that way. And like I said, I walk around the gym staring at the floor now because of this shit. Like, I won't look at people anymore because I don't want to be seen as that guy.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. These types of environments and being around these folks is that, like, these cognitive, like, these things can, like, feed off of each other in itself. And so when you get exposed to these types of environments, it continues to reinforce this, and then it becomes like a truth in self, right?
Yeah.
And so then it impacts your view of the world. So now you're in the gym, you're doing this, and this is how it impacts your behavior, which now this is a direct result of trauma, because getting these messages from these people is traumatizing. So FYI. The next one is disqualifying the positive. I know that I have had a history of notoriously doing this. Things are different now. And I'm still working on it. This one says, recognizing only the negative aspects of a situation while ignoring the positive. This is a cognitive distortion to the max. You might receive many compliments of an evaluation, but focus on the single piece of negative feedback. Thoughts?
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like in today's society, the negative is what's focused on, but no one looks at the positive side of things. So, I mean, without getting too political about it, look at, I'm just going to bring it up, Elon Musk. A lot of people hate that guy because of, I think, mostly the whole Twitter problem. Yet everybody ignores the fuck out of all the amazing shit that person does. And so, since society looks at shit like that, I kind of do the same thing. And so, if someone says one bad thing amongst the sea of good things, I go, okay, well, this is the guy to be. I got to fix that part so people don't look at me negatively.
Which
Because
is outside of your control.
Yeah, but I'm trying to minimize it, right?
Correct.
So it's
which then minimizes your accomplishments and the things that you can do.
Yeah, and I think that way because that's the way I see society working. They only focus on the fucking negative stuff, so it's like, okay, well, let's eliminate my negative shit. That's the one thing I got to focus on.
The next one, not to just again, just for the sake of time.
Yeah.
Next one is should statements.
I do that.
The belief that things should, quote, be a certain way. Quote, I should always be perfect. This one was really difficult for me, I'm not gonna lie. Because I kept on thinking I have to be a certain way. And I kept on saying, like, I am this way. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I do these things, right? Except there's no such thing as a good person. There's just a person that does subjectively good things. And those things are based on morals and values that, again, are subjective. For instance, like, what it always comes to mind of, like, is that, like, the belief of, like, there's people in this world historically who have categorized some folks as, like, and they put them like, oh, that's a good person and that's a bad person, right? Mm-hmm. And they base it on however their actions directly impact them or the course of what is beneficial or takes away from. However, for every person that thinks that someone is good or bad, there's someone that views that person as vice versa, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. There is no shoulds. Only cis think in speak in obsoletes or absolutes, excuse me, in absolutes. It's like, the thing is that people are not good and they're not bad. They do subjectively good things and they do subjectively bad things. People are not fat, people have fat. Because if you're saying that they are fat, that means that they have no value out of the fat that they have on their body. Or that people are good looking, that means that that's all that there is. Like, they have qualities that are subjectively attractive to you.
Right.
Because everybody's view of attraction is different.
Right.
And just because it's truth or it feels like truth for one doesn't mean it's truth for all. Right? And so should statements, yeah, that's definitely another one. Any thoughts on should statements?
Not really. I just don't understand how the word should was played into that, but
oh, that one is because it's like that things should be a certain way. So it's all like, I should be perfect. So it's like people feel like they need it. It could only be truth if it looks a certain way.
Gotcha.
So it's like, I have to be, it's like, I should be a good person. I should be a bad person. Or, because again, some people just don't give a shit, right?
Right.
Or whatever the case may be. It's like, but I play that into that because a lot of times people do these very black and white thoughts of like, it has to be this way, it should be this way, except that's outside of your control of what is the outcome. So it just is what it is.
Gotcha.
The last one is all or nothing thinking, also known as black and white thinking. Thinking in absolutes. Okay, there it is again. Thinking in absolutes such as always, never, or every. Quote, I never do a good enough job on anything. Unquote. Again, like black and white thinking is very limiting. To think that there is only black to the only white minimizes all of the gray in between and all the other colors in between those 2 points, which are endless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can really impact and amplify the experiences of suffrage in an individual. So, for not just, or like for anyone that's listening to this, if you're someone that is experiencing these things, I would encourage if you need, again, because therapy is expensive, if you can find therapy, fantastic. If not, I would encourage you to engage or to pick up a cognitive behavioral therapy workbook, which are commonly at your local bookstore or online. I know the holidays are coming around. If you're somebody that's getting a gift card, pick that up. Like that will give you 10 times more joy than that temporary gift that or the joy that that gift may give you. But I definitely would encourage picking up. I'll even name drop one just so people could really do some work if they'd like to. Workbook, because there's a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy worksheets online. Cognitive behavioral therapy also is designated to support with experience such as the severity of depressive symptoms, anxiety symptoms, a plethora of different diagnoses. There's ones that are online for free, but the one I definitely would encourage is I think there's even one that's at Target, if you're somebody that has access to a Target, that it's called the Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Workbook, Evidence-Based CBT Skills to Help Manage Stress, Anxiety, Depression, and More. And it's by a person, God, I hope I say this fucking name right. I think I fuck it up every time. I really hope I say this right. Anyway, I think it's Michael A. Tompkins. So it's Michael A. and then Tompkins.
Yeah, Tompkins.
Tompkins.
Tompkins. Yeah.
Some things are difficult for me to say, but yeah, that one. And by doing those kinds of things and exposing that in a very kind of routine life, I can in a very confident way say that things can change of how you view the world, and you'll see it happening over time. However, it just like just like picking up physical health or anything like that, or changing diet, it's like you need consistency, and you need to kind of continuously reinforce that, and also extend some self-compassion if it's hard to commit to that consistency, because it's not easy, and if it were easy, everyone would be doing it. But tis what it is. So that's my 2 cents for Therapy Thursday this week.
Yay!
That one's on the house. Trust me, that is a very expensive piece that I just gave out to people. So I hope they just take that and be like, that is my holiday gift to you, whoever's listening.
There
I
you
hope
go.
you treasure it.
There you go, chat. Free stuff.
Free stuff.
Well, that's the end of this episode. Whatever, today's stream.
Yeah.
I hope, and I'm sure Asteria does also, hope you guys can get through the holidays.
Please.
And hopefully there's not too much drama in your family network and all that good stuff, and hopefully you get a big old wedge of cheese for Christmas.
Heck yeah, cheese.
And
I love cheese.
everyone knows the old Christmas wheel of cheese.
Oh, they do that every year.
Yeah, the Christmas platypus puts it under your tree. That's going to be a thing. If I ever have kids, they're going to be like, "What's this?" The Christmas platypus brings a wheel of cheese and puts it under the tree.
Dude, yes. And then if they see it, like, then you put it like a stuffed platypus, and then you put it on a string and pull it out of the room. They're like, "I saw him."
Saw the Christmas platypus, and it just leaves like fucking, like. They're like, "Oh, was he here tonight?" It's like, I don't know. There's craft singles all over the house.
He's like, it's even processed cheese product. That's fucking hilarious. And in that same idea, once those kids go to school, it's like the Christmas platypus, and then they're like, oh, you told your kid the lie of the Christmas platypus. That's not realistic. It's like, oh, but a big fat jolly dude.
A big fat jolly dude? Yeah, that like disobeys the laws of physics and can squeeze down a fucking chimney. Yeah. A guy who actually... Okay, I'm going to bring this up before we go real quick. I think I brought this up to you. Do you know why Santa wears a red suit?
Coca-Cola?
Exactly. It is because of Coca-Cola. He was actually originally portrayed as wearing a blue suit way back yonder when, before advertising came around. I think Santa didn't start wearing red until like the 70s or some shit. Look it up. Fact check that one. It's there.
Dang.
Thank you, wild. Capitalism.
Yay. And with that, that is where we'll end today.
Yes, so if you have any mental health questions or thoughts, I suggest writing them down and bringing them in next week. We should be back next week unless something happens. I don't know. I can't see into the future except for the fact that I am going to go pee after this. That is in my future. But yeah, bring it in next week. And especially, I think next week should be all about the holiday stuff. So chat, what like happened on the holidays? Yeah, end of year. A year mental health review. How long have we been doing this?
That's a good question. We should probably check that out.
Shit, it feels like, I don't know. It could have been a long time or not a long time. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Yes, Darth Jen is very excited about Christmas.
Yay, Christmas! Yeah, honestly,
and birthday.
Like, and birthday for the birthday boy, which we sorry, I just remembered a conversation. Anyway, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say, like, oh yeah, I know that we've been at least doing it for a year because I'm coming up on a year living in where I currently live. And then I was just like, Jesus Christ, though. That could have been any time in this last year. So
he says, I'm a big boy.
Yeah, you're going to do big boy things and be a big boy on the big boy day.
Yay.
So with that, thank you, chat. Please continue to show up. Tell your friends. Write down your questions. Come chat with us about stuff. Thank you to Kilted for holding this. And even in the midst of things that are hard and heavy for him, holding space and talking, because it could be really hard to do that. So I hope we also give a shout out to Kilted.
Yeah, and also, again, if you do have any mental health stuff, there is a channel on the Discord. You can find the link below the stream if you want to post anything in there. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for stopping by. I recommend checking out the live streams. You can go and put a comment below the YouTube video. And since I get damn near no comments, I will probably read it and then we can bring it up on the next one. So have at it. And then you can just see it the next week. Like, did they answer it? And then I'm not going to tell you where it's at. So you have to watch the whole video. Because
that's fucking hilarious.
All right, chat. That should do it. yeah, thanks for stopping by, everybody. We'll see you all later. Thank you, Asteria.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, everyone.
Okay, bye, Chatterman. Bye, 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 bye.
Bye.
Yeah.